Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Club. Myself, Robert Grieve, Bill Leckie as ever, and we've got new surroundings. We're not in Bella Vita.
We're not.
In Glasgow. We are in Athens, Bill. And
Bella
we've got
Athens.
A spectacular view of the Acropolis. You probably can't really see it is in the distance behind us.
We were going to be brave this morning and do this outside with the Acropolis behind
chilly.
us, but it's chilly and more to the point, the wind would have ripped the ears off you.
Yeah, absolutely, but we're here anyway. We're excited ahead of Scotland's game against Greece here in Athens tomorrow night. And a big game, Bill. We've not seen Scotland play for a long time now. October was the last game when we get the result in Poland. But this Nations League playoff or relegation playoff, how are you feeling about it?
It's weird, isn't it? Because right at the peak of a domestic season, you've got all the European football and you've the Old Firm game at the weekend, and you've got all the build up to the top, the split, etc., etc. And suddenly this game, really big game for Scotland, kind of creeps up on us as if there you are, and we've not played for, whatever it is, 5 months, and we've got to hit the ground running with players at a stage of the season where the legs are starting to feel a bit heavier, and they've got to come here and get a result and take us back to Hampden with a chance.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to know. It's hard to predict the kind of form guide because we have to look at players how they're playing for their clubs.
And are they playing for their clubs?
And are they playing for their clubs? But it's a difficult one for Steve Clarke to actually gauge how fit and well these players are, because you say it's been a long time since Scotland have played.
It's a long time, but these guys are at that stage of the season where they're on it. A lot of them are on it midweek weekend, playing for. Andy Robertson's coming off losing Champions League game and then a cup final, and John Souttar was like coming off an Old Firm game, and everybody's got a lot on their plate. So it's a big job for Steve Clarke to take them out of that bubble and into a new bubble, and then let's just see how we can perform.
Yeah, as we say, it's a kind of relegation playoff from the Nations League. 2 games. Away here first on Thursday. We're back at Hampden on Sunday evening. Greece are a decent team.
Very good.
They won at Wembley against England fairly recently. They've got players playing all over Europe. Top clubs: Benfica, Bruges, Liverpool. They're going to be. I think years gone by, we maybe thought. You maybe think that
it was doable,
but this is going to be a tough game.
It is, and one of the sort of side issues here, Robert, is how we do with a view to then playing them again in the World Cup, because you don't want to go there having lost to them, and been, given a bit of a schooling by them. You want to go into the World Cup game saying, we've got their measure. So this becomes...
Albeit those games are a while away. The World Cup qualifiers kick off in September.
They'll be here tomorrow. It's like it's going to rush by again, isn't it?
Yeah, but at the same time, do you think we can put too much on these games for the World Cup? Do you think we can? Because we're talking about there's going to be a distance between now and then between how guys are playing, how the team's playing.
That happens in international football, doesn't it, all the time? A guy that was in form in October might not be in form in March, and the same when it comes to September time. But I suppose it depends how much importance you put on the Nations League and whether you get relegated or whether you stay in the top flight. This is a discussion we've had on here before, and people have all the time, is, are we better off fighting tooth and nail to be in the top section of the Nations League, where you might end up in a relegation battle every time you do it, or do you want to be a really decent team in the B groups? What do you think?
I think it's a difficult one to call. I think you can understand why Steve Clarke, when he's talking about it, talks about how you want to be the kind of best v best, and playing the bigger nations, the better nations, is a good thing. It's making us better as a team. And I think there's no doubt that when the team played in the last Nations League, we got better.
We did get better,
as it went on, as it progressed. So I think there's merit in that argument. But at the same time, do we have a better chance of qualifying, getting that kind of fallback option, because that's how we've got there.
Yeah, in the past.
But previously, So I don't know. I think it's a really, really difficult one. I think if you're Steve Clarke, I can understand why, when asked about it, when he talks about it, he's always going to talk up the idea of us being a top, and then you get better playing against the good sides. Now, we found in the run up to the Euros that didn't really work for us, because we took 2 or 3 pastings that I think knocked a bit of confidence out of us. But as we've gone along, with a couple of last minute defeats to Poland and Portugal, and then we started to creep our way back in to the stage where we went to Poland, got the result with a last minute goal with Andy Robertson, and it brought us to that stage when we could have been relegated, maybe with 2 games to go, and we did really well to come that far. I suppose in club terms, it would kind of depend what kind of team you support. If you're a supporter of a kind of yo-yo team that goes up and down between the top flight and second tier,
sometimes you're better off being in the second tier where you're confident of winning games all the time. But then, if you're the players or the manager, you want to pit your wits against the best teams all the time.
Yeah.
I'm you. I'm not entirely sure. I think I would probably, on balance, rather play in the top league.
Yeah.
And take my chances against the good teams.
Absolutely, I think there's got to be a feel-good factor that comes from if we can avoid relegation, if we can beat Greece over these 2 games, I think there'll be a feel-good factor that comes from that, and then you can take that into the World Cup qualification campaign, as you say. If you're relegated, even though in the grand scheme it's maybe not the biggest biggest negative, because you're probably realistically a kind of level 2
good
team.
Level 2 team. Well, we started under Steve as a level 3 team.
Level 3 team, yeah.
You know, so to get to be playing a relegation playoff to stay in the top flight is huge progress.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe if you end up as being a good, because also as a good B team, you've got a better chance of making playoffs through the Nations League.
That's the only thing
qualify for.
That's the only thing that's at the back of my mind thinking about it. Why it's maybe not the worst thing in the world, but at the same time, we want Scotland to win. Of
course we do.
We want that feel-good factor to still be there. In the back of the Poland result, that was great. And if we can avoid relegation, we can stay among the kind of elite teams, elite nations. Then that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think we can look at it otherwise if and when we don't. If we are relegated, then fine. But I think the Nations League's overall has been good. I mean, it was designed to get rid of the friendly
rubbish
games.
friendlies, where you had 12,000 at Hampden or whatever.
So I think it's been a really good thing.
Yeah.
Players have been turning up. I think Scotland players, anyway, in the last number of years have turned up anyway. But I think it's been a really good thing. But what will be interesting though, team selection.
Yeah. Team shape.
Don't know how many times we talk about this, but when Kieran Tierney's available, and Andy Robertson's available, how do we play? Do we play the 3? Do we play the 4?
Yeah.
Where does Tierney play? It's an age-old argument
And
now.
it all revolves around Kieran Tierney.
Yeah. So what do you think about it, Desiree? Because the back 4, we've had relative success playing with back 4 when he's not been there.
But that would mean Kieran Tierney, presuming he starts, which you think he will.
If he's here, he's going to start, isn't
If it's a 4, then he plays on the left side of a centre-half pairing, presumably with John Souttar. Is he a straight centre-half, or is he only playing in the middle of the defence if there's a 3? Because I love Kieran Tierney. He's a tremendous player, but do you go back and reshape the whole team because he's available? There's a big question.
It's a big thing for Steve Clarke to think about, and I don't know what the answer is. Frankly, I don't know what the rights and wrongs of it. We seem to have been here so many times in recent years, and he's changed it. He's chopped and changed. There's times it's worked, and it's when he's been in a back 4, and there's times when it's been better with the 5 and he's in the left side of it. I don't know.
And
it's a really difficult one.
Here's an ideal world scenario. If Kieran Tierney's 100% fit and running flat out, if Andy Robertson's on top form, then I think you go with a back 3, back 5, and you have that situation where Kieran Tierney plays the ball out to Andy Robertson and can get round the outside of him as an overlapper, which was where we had the success against your Spain and Denmark when this team was evolving. But we've now settled into this shape where we're a lot harder to play against, and it's a.
Well, it's a really
I
tough
just
one.
don't know. I think I think if he's in the squad and he's fully fit, Steve will go back to the 5.
I think you're probably right. But I tell you what, though, I do just hope that and we've said this time and again with Kieran Tierney, that he probably needs a bit of work in terms of injuries.
He does.
It seems to be so often, and I know people will say, he's actually played a lot more games than some people think, but he's missed a lot of football. Through no fault of his own. I think he's as conscientious as they come in terms of his training, the way he looks after himself, the way he kind of leads his life, and he's been so unfortunate. But a fit and well Kieran Tierney brings an entirely different dimension to the Scotland team.
Yeah, and if you look at his situation at Arsenal now, the 18-year-old boy, Miles Lewis-Skelly, his first choice left back.
Yeah, he's playing left wing now.
And then probably Zinchenko, and then probably Kieran. So he's going back to Celtic, which is a big move for him. A lot of people might not say it's an advancement in his career, but for him it's going to make him happy, I think.
Yeah.
Which will be half the battle for him because he's not had a happy time in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think you can see that. You see that in his face. I think. I think when he goes back to Celtic, as you say, I think he should get a new lease of life.
He'll be
playing
so for him.
far more regularly. Albeit, I don't think he will play every single week. I think because of his.
Where do you think he'll play?
Again, I don't know. That's another very big question. I wonder if he's going to be a centre back.
Yeah.
I think I wonder if that's something that Brendan Rodgers is thinking about, whether he actually puts him right back into defence rather than the Kieran Tierney of old of him rampaging up and down the left.
It's not there
flank.
anymore. No.
I
don't think it can be
there anymore
for the sake of his health, because once you've had those sort of hamstring and adductor groin type things, I don't think.
But then who knows, Bill? Maybe he's just been itching to play at Arsenal, and for whatever reason he's not playing.
I hope so.
His injury history hasn't been an issue. I mean, he's been in the squads
He's just
for
not
the last
playing.
number of months. So maybe he is. Maybe we're talking about his fitness, and maybe that's unfair. Maybe
But we'll find out.
He's
We'll find out here, and it's one of the big questions.
One of the big conundrums. Another one, midfield.
Yeah.
Ryan Christie. Talk to me about Ryan Christie, because Ryan Christie for Bournemouth has been exceptional.
Now, he's going to miss this game. He's suspended for this game. For me, as soon as he's available, I'd have him sitting as one of the two, probably with Billy Gilmour, because his performances for Bournemouth, I've talked to us before, performances for Bournemouth in a 4-2-3-1, playing in front of the back four, have allowed everything that Bournemouth are good at this season, and this fantastic season they're having. It allows it to happen, and that's what you really need. And it's that kind of hole that Callum McGregor's left in the Scotland team, that kind of hub that things can work round.
What I was going to say, I know he's suspended, but do you think that will be in the back of Steve Clarke's mind, that going forward, that's his position, is going to be the kind of
I'm not sure.
deeper midfielder rather than the guy who's been more attacking in the team?
You know what Steve's like? He's
stubborn,
stuck in his ways. He likes the shape. We're talking about it with Kieran Tierney. He likes things the way he likes them, and the way that suit his squad, not the way things suit somebody else's squad. Now, he might say, well, what works for Iraola Bournemouth doesn't necessarily work for Scotland. I don't want... I'll get more out of Ryan Christie as a 10 or a winger. I just think he looks an absolute natural in that position. And it's a moot point here because he's not going to be playing in Athens.
I was more thinking about
Sunday night,
going forward.
Personally, I would play him there. And that then releases Scott McTominay to get 20 yards up the park, to join in with John McGinn. I think what it's done for Bournemouth is allow more attacking players onto the park. Because he's got that natural attacking instinct if it's needed, but it allows another player to play forward, which we could do with.
Well, let's talk about players who are available for this first game. Striker-wise, Shea Adams is going to start. He's doing very well. Been doing really well in Italy. It's a bonus for us that he's one of the players that seems to be in good form.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to have suited him moving to Turin. He's chasing Dennis Law's goal scoring records, and he seems happy. He seems settled. I think he likes being away from the limelight and the spotlight. I think he's quite a quiet boy.
Yeah, I think he is great.
So let's see how. Also, it'll have. I think what he probably needed was a bit more game intelligence for playing as a lone striker, because I think sometimes he can be a bit one-dimensional with Scotland as the only striker. So let's see what that's brought into his game playing in Italy, where it's a lot more technical for a front man. I'd love to see him come back and hit the ground running again, and he has done. He's not been a great goal scorer for Scotland, but he's been an excellent player for Scotland.
Yeah, he brings a lot to the team, doesn't he? The way he holds the game up, holds the play up.
And I think that's what Steve wants. He wants him to bring McGinn and McTominay and Christie and whoever else into the game.
Yeah. As I said, though, I think it's going to be a very difficult game because, again, we kind of touched on it. Greece are proper players in their team.
Well, I've seen guys like, look at the boy Solis at Bruges. We watched Bruges during the Champions League. Okay, they've been knocked out now. The players like him, you look at them and say, I don't really know this boy, 22, 20. And then suddenly you watch him playing week after week in the Champions League. Go, wait a minute, this is a player. And bit by bit, they've started to. They're one of these countries who have exported players to really, probably because of economic reasons for other clubs as well. But in the same way as we've landed a McTominay at Napoli and Adams at Torino, they've suddenly found they've got players at Liverpool and at Bruges and at Benfica, as you say, and they've emerged from a long spell. It's 2014 to qualify for a tournament. And they've emerged from a long spell of being a kind of nothingy team to almost being something. The win at Wembley was huge for them, and I think that.
That was a strange England team. That
was a strange.
That was Lee Carsley's kind of temporary
19 number 10s in it, but you've still got to go and win the game. And they won it in the last minute at Wembley, which If we did that, we wouldn't care what the Team England had out.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, the away leg here is massive for us, and we need to come back, obviously still in it, ideally at least level. And I don't see why we can't. I don't see, after the way we played in Poland, the way we managed that game, I don't see why we can't come back with a result.
How are you feeling about the World Cup qualifiers? As we say, they don't kick off until September, and we'll get a gauge tomorrow night, and a gauge in the kind of coming months, couple of friendly games in June, to see where we're at. 'Cause again, it is hard, I think, to judge where we're at. But are you relatively optimistic about our chances of going to the States and Canada and Mexico?
It's such a concentrated group. We're back to the old school of having 4 teams in a group.
Yep.
But it's in that little tournament bubble almost over the space of 2 months. The group winners of all the European groups go through, and then the 16
16
teams
European.
go into playoffs.
Yeah.
12 from the groups and 4 from the Nations League. And then you're looking at a one-off semi-final or a one-off final. So it's a long process to get there unless you win your group. So right now we've got Greece, we've got Belarus. We'll find out over the weekend whether it's Denmark or Portugal.
Yeah. And that's another tricky one, because we play the losers of that tie, whether it's Portugal or Denmark. If you're asking me right now, I say we probably want Denmark to be playing them. That said, they're a decent team as well,
We've seen how good they are, how hard it was to play them in Copenhagen. We were brilliant against them at Hampden.
Yeah.
But again, time's moved on, players have moved on. You know, players are 2-3 years older, and teams start to develop. I just think in that almost tournament situation, it's a different animal from when it used to run over 18 months or whatever. And as you mention every week, I'm old enough to remember stuff. And in 74 and 78, we had 3 teams in the group.
Wow.
You played 4 games.
It's crazy.
And you're in the World Cup, you know.
It's crazy when you think about it.
But now we get into this little, and it was over a season and a half, you know. But now we're into this little sort of
really
6-8 week thing where we go. Oh, it's almost every 2 or 3 weeks you're back into another game, and it's going to be huge. And the pressure on the players is going to be enormous. And also then they'll have a draw for the World Cup in December, by which time, if we finish second, you're not going to know until the March, whether you're actually going or not. So you've got this big carrot being dangled. So it's a very exciting time for everybody. And I'll be really interested. You know, we talked last week about Lennon, Miller and James Wilson coming in.
Yeah.
Whether come September, October, they might be ready to play a proper part.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else who's going to make a... I mean, George Hurst now comes in to join us as well.
Yeah.
There's a player that before wasn't really on anybody's radar until recently, and now you'll be watching him every week with Ipswich and seeing how he does. He's scored I think 4 this season, but he's involved in a lot of assists. So another one of these guys who can play on his own up front if necessary. He's kind of been second fiddle to the boy Delap, who's been outstanding. But again, a good spot, through the old grandparents' rule. Good spot by Steve Clarke and his people. And let's see over the next 2 games where he comes in the taxi rank.
Yeah.
Does he go in just behind Shea Adams because they've gone and looked for him?
I think at the minute, arguably, but again, it'll probably get down to how he trains, how he's looking behind the scenes. Tommy Conway's there as well.
Yeah.
He's a decent season. Doesn't score a whole lot of goals.
Well, that's the thing. He's not a goal
scorer, but he's been playing well enough at Middlesbrough by all accounts. But yeah, I'm really interested to see George Hurst.
Yeah.
I know he's one that Steve Clarke had an eye on for a good number of months.
Yep.
And he's convinced that he's going to be fully committed, because, as I mentioned this to Steve Clarke last week, that we have to be sure about this, that when the guys are going to switch their allegiances, that they are all in, and you get the impression this boy is. So, I'm really interested to see him. But as you mentioned, the kids, the younger boys, I'm not sure how much they're going to play in this game, how much a part they'll play. But I think it's really encouraging
that he's bringing them in.
James Wilson, Lennon Miller, 2 boys who the sky's the limit for them, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get them in at a young age, I think that's been one of the failings of the Scotland team, Scotland managers down the years, that we don't do it quickly enough.
No, Ben Doak seemed to change things for us.
He did, but even Ben Doak was Steve Clarke talked him down when they bring him in. Yeah, let's build these guys up. There's Lennon Miller speaking last week about coming into the Scotland squad, and I thought it was fantastic when he asked about, I'm not the best player, but I tell you what, maybe in a couple of camps I will be.
And it's funny,
and by the way, people were sitting up saying, wait a minute, kid, calm yourself. But that's fantastic. That's what we need.
I think I don't usually like the phrase taken out of context, but I think he was in this case. Because some people have made him sound like some kind of bumptious,
I watched the video.
arrogant boy.
It was filmed. It was on video.
Yeah.
It wasn't quotes.
No.
But he was. What's wrong with that?
No. I think that some people have talked the boy down for it. Or who does he think he is?
Yeah, but
I think it's a great thing to say.
100%. There's also, as you say, people saying, "Oh, it's taken out of context." He didn't quite mean that. No, I think he did.
Aye.
Good on him. Power to him.
But
he's sitting there
what
thinking,
he's not
"I'm going
saying-
into a squad and I'm going to." Yeah.
But what he's not saying is I'm better than him. He's saying I can be better than him.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
I'm
exactly
going to
it.
make myself
Yeah.
better, and that's. I think
It
that's
was
a tremendous attitude.
It was the fact that he said it like
Yeah.
in a couple of camps or
Yeah.
but not in a couple of years. You know,
Aye.
and people are saying, "Right, come on." But fantastic. Why not? That's what we need. We need other players, young players who make it.
Yeah.
They make it largely because of their attitude.
Yeah.
And they've all got something about them that makes them believe that they are better than the guy they're sitting in the changing room with.
And what we
so
don't,
why
what,
would we knock that out of them?
What we don't want is players that are happy just to be there.
No.
We heard it with Dan Burn at the other end of the scale, 32-year-old
Yeah,
called
he's
into the
saying
England
the
squad,
same thing,
and he's saying, "I'm not here to be a cheerleader. I'm not here just to say thanks very much for the cap and offer pop. I want to play in the World Cup." And I think that's what a phenomenal attitude that is.
And I think whether Lennon Miller's 18 or 38, if he's coming into that squad, he's been picked. He's one of the best players in the country right now.
Yep.
He had an injury at Motherwell. The team missed him badly.
Massively.
And he's come right back into the team and he's dictating play for there. I watched him at Ibrox and he was phenomenal. He was fantastic. Mother was a team great that day, but Lennon Miller was really, really good. And I think it's fantastic to see.
Yeah. And I've said before about James. I've said before as well.
James Wilson as well.
James Wilson for me, I think is just. He's got everything. He's got everything.
He's got real maturity about him as well.
has.
When you listen to him speak, he's not overawed by anything. He's very matter of fact about where he is, and he's not above. He's not getting. These guys aren't getting above themselves. But there's a very, very fine line between. But you know, what I mean, people might say it's arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's just a self-belief, and that's what these guys need, and that's what all our players need.
And look at him. He has overtaken Lawrence Shankland.
That's the thing. If you're
He's captain at Hearts as a Scotland player.
Yeah. If you're, I wonder if you'd had a penny for Lawrence Shankland's thoughts that day when the email or whatever came in, or presumably they get the nod the night before or whatever to say he's not in it. That's a tough one for him to take. But I tell you what, he has to buckle down.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves to be in the squad. I've said this before.
No.
I think we all are fitting well, playing well. Lawrence Shankland is in the Scotland squad.
Yeah.
But he's not been. He's not been. So, and I think it's good that when guys are not playing as well as they can do, that they are missing out, and it's not just a case of it used to be the saying that if it was harder to get out the Scotland squad than get in it. You know,
Absolutely.
it's kind of once you were picked, you were always there. No, Lawrence Shankland doesn't deserve to be there. Steve Clarke's watched the Hearts games and he sees this kid playing better. Get him in, brilliant. I don't think he'll play in this game. Be surprised if he does. Albeit, I do think, as I said last week, the fact that he can play for Northern Ireland was definitely at the back of Steve Clarke's mind when he was picking this squad.
I think we'll see him at some point in these two games.
Absolutely, I think he will. But I think that's absolutely something that was the case. Michael O'Neill, I think, was looking at it, the boys' dads from Northern Ireland, and obviously could play for them. So let's get him involved, get him a cap, because I think clearly the boys got a big future. The sun's coming out, Bill, and my back's getting a bit
roasty toasty. We are sitting up on the 9th floor of hotel here in Athens, and the views behind us, you'll see, are just spectacular. You can see for absolutely miles. Roberts is over there, the Acropolis, the Parthenon over there.
It'll be decent when it's finished.
It'll be nice when it's finished, you're quite right. They've got scaffolding up just now, the workies are in. But it's just such a... It's my first time in Athens, and immediately you come here, you just get this idea of this massive, kind of chaotic city. And we're going down to Piraeus, down to the port for the game tomorrow night, and I get the feeling it'll be noisy and a bit chaotic, and it's the way international football should be.
We got here late last night, got to the hotel about 2 a.m. There were some Scotland fans kicking around. They'll enjoy this town. This will be a good town for them to come and get a beer and enjoy themselves. But as always, if you can like and subscribe below, let us know in the comments section.
You need to.
It's a rule. Let us know in the comment section what you think yourselves about the Scotland game and the chances for Steve Clarke and the boys to get a result. They're flying over here shortly, Bill. As you say, we're going up to
we'll see them tonight.
For the press conference of manager and usually
6 o'clock UK time.
So you'll see that online later on, and in tomorrow's newspaper. Yeah, I'm relatively optimistic about it.
There's no reason not to be.
Listen, you know me, I always love coming away with Scotland. We started these things doing the Euros in Germany, the tournament we'll talk about. And we do enjoy covering Scotland, don't we? Because
We do.
we've seen a real progress, haven't we?
Do you know, that's the joy is, sometimes in our job, people think, oh, you just love slagging people off. But there is no joy in coming away with Scotland or a Scottish club in Europe and them getting hammered and you having to go back and tell everybody how bad it was.
Yeah.
The joy is after a Scotland game, walking into a Steve Clarke press conference or into the mix zone to meet the players, and everybody's positive and everybody's proud. I still go back to the night in Oslo when we won that really pivotal night, and the pride and the joy among those boys. That was the night they arrived as a kind of group, and they all realised how much they were on each other's side.
Yeah.
And I love that for Scotland.
It's funny because you kind of think back to kind of your best nights in the job, and for me, it's been largely watching our teams in Europe and watching Scotland. I mean,
absolutely.
The night in Belgrade when we qualified for the Euros, there was only a couple of us there.
That was very special.
Not all newspapers sent to that trip because of COVID, and just being there was phenomenal, you know.
The Spain game at Hampden, the Denmark game at Hampden.
There's been some real highlights, you know, and hopefully in the coming months there's going to be more. As you say though, it's you talk about the positivity of covering Scotland and things are going well. We used to fly with the team, and whenever you would, if it was a bad result, having to walk up the plane with all the
players half avoiding your eyes and half trying to trip you up.
And you're trying to avoid them as well because they know you've slaughtered them.
Aye.
And you're just trying to get to your seat. But anyway, we travel independently now.
Independently, and I have to say that was a very uncomfortable situation for everybody. You know, sitting around a departure line for 2 or 3 hours, your flight's delayed for 3 hours, and players are sitting there just wanting their bed, and you don't want to catch their eye, and they don't want to catch your eye, and I'm actually quite pleased sometimes that we're not doing that anymore.
COVID brought an end to that scenario anyway, but but I'm genuinely looking forward to the game.
Yeah.
It will be very, very interesting to see what team the manager picks. We'll try and get a bit of insight in that tonight, I think, when we speak to him. Not that he gives too much away.
He doesn't give an awful lot away. He might admit we're playing Greece.
He might admit he's playing Greece. I mean, for him as well, I mean, he spoke about this last week. We touched on it last week about the idea that this could be Steve Clarke's last year as Scotland manager.
Absolutely.
You know, if things don't go well in the next few months, if the World Cup qualifiers end badly, he's gone. I mean, he'll see out his contract, but Scotland will be looking for a new manager.
I think there's a long way to go, but I think we'll make a playoff for the World Cup. I think we can finish second in this group. I think if we don't have real confidence in ourselves to finish second, then I think it's one of these you might as well not turn up, because you're thinking, if we want to go to the World Cup, we need to beat Belarus, we need to beat Greece, and then it's either Denmark or Portugal, and you need to just give them everything you've got. So I think we'll get to a playoff. I think we'll be hanging about till March, not knowing if we're going or we're not going, and it's all going to feel a bit strange. But I think that's where we are. Yeah,
but for Steve himself, and again we touched on this before, a big few months. You know,
massive.
Every time we speak to him, and even right back to when he got the job, one of his big targets was the World Cup.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, that was the Euros.
Why would it not be? You know,
absolutely. But the Euros, as much as they were fantastic to get there, and again we've talked about it often enough now how poorly we performed at the tournaments, but the World Cup's a big one. If we could get to that tournament next summer in the USA, Canada.
Imagine growing up as a young guy who's quite good at football, who ends up being a professional footballer, who gets the big move to England, who plays beyond himself for probably what he thought he could achieve, who moves into coaching with some of the best managers there have been, and ends up managing his country to a World Cup. There's a career that you could just hang in the wall and say, that was me, I did that. Now, I would love that for Steve Clarke. If he could cut in, as you said last week, this isn't the end of his career, but if he could peak by taking his country to the World Cup, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think we've got to believe, if you think through the team sheet or the squad list of the guys that we've got, the clubs that they're playing at, the level they're playing at, why not?
And the stage of the career they're at.
Yeah, there's guys at the peak of their career. You know, John McGinn, he's getting to the last stage of the Champions League with Villa. Kieran Tierney, as you say, he's kicking on it. He's get fit again. He's available. Should be playing arguably for Arsenal. Andy Robertson, peak of his career.
Craig Gordon at 44.
And we've got younger guys coming through as well. So I think there is real reason for optimism there. And I just hope, and again, one of the big criticisms of this group has been that as well as they have done to get to tournaments,
they haven't done it in the tournament.
They haven't done it in the tournaments. So I think there has got to be a fire there.
There's unfinished business of it.
That's a very good way of putting it.
So let's start to finish it.
There is very much a case of unfinished business with a squad with guys that have been good Scotland players for a number of years now. We've got guys with a lot of caps. That was one of the issues when Steve Clarke became Scotland manager, that he wanted to get guys with more caps, more experience under their belt, played against a good level of opposition. And he has done that. We've got guys in 50, 40, 50, 80 caps now. Andy Robertson, I think, is in 80, 81 caps. Craig Gordon's going to get his 80th cap, I think, this week when he plays. So we've got guys who are amassing good experience. Scott McTominay, John McGinn, these guys.
But they don't have great tournament experience yet.
They don't, but in terms of getting there, so I just hope that that's something that, I know Scott McTominay last week, I think, was quoted as saying he feels a bit maybe jaded because he's played so much football for Napoli, but he's such a huge player for us now, and you hope that the Napoli player who's been tearing up Serie A there in Italy is the one that turns up for Scotland tomorrow night, and he kind of bosses this game.
You know what journalists are like. Somebody will have said to him, are you feeling the pace of this season,
Scott?
How are you feeling? See a wee bit, aye. Well, you go, Scott McTominay, I'm shattered. Right, there you go.
Can't be saying that.
Can't be saying
that.
You can say a bit silence.
Can't be saying that. Anyway, I think that's about us for this week's Coffee Club. Look out later this week for an interview edition of Coffee Club, which you'll see later in the week. We're quite excited about that. We did something a few days ago, which will be coming out at the end of the week. But
you're a tease, aren't you?
And I'll just tease that one up there. So look out for that.
A very special guest.
A special guest, and that will be out, I think, later towards the end of the week. But for now, Bill, that's about us. You've managed to get us some cakes here, although it has to be said, the guys in the cafe or the restaurant here weren't too pleased about bringing in.
I bought them from the hotel cafe, and they said you can't eat the hotel cafe stuff in the hotel. Anyway, very quickly before they throw us out, got us a couple of coffees, a couple of apple crumbles with almonds, and then some chocolate Fiorentinas.
But we did say we weren't going to eat them.
We're not going to eat them just now. Don't do it. The alarms will go off. The sprinklers will come on.
Right, better not. Anyway, that's us for this week's edition of Coffee Club. As ever, I say, like and subscribe below. Let us know your comments. And hopefully, the next time we're talking about Scotland, a couple of victories. And a good night for the Tartan Army. Until next week, we'll catch you then.